I'm delighted to see that a little bit of noise about Patrick Christys has got him reinstated on Twitter, and he's back, as he should be. He's one of the more interesting people on GBNews, talkTV, that cycle of slightly questionable broadcasting, but it doesn't mean that the people involved are not dynamic. There's a number of people I think are spectacular broadcasters. Again, I don't agree with everything they say. Tom Harwood is somebody I would listen to on a regular basis if I had an opportunity. I don't listen to all these things, but I do drop in and out, and I'm mindful of the work that is done, and I'm mindful of what is said. I think we need more of the Patrick Christys and less of the Nadine Dorries. I think Nigel Farage is a spectacular television personality. I think Rees-Mogg, oddly, is a spectacular television personality. Rees-Mogg, if he wants to continue in that career, I wish he should resign from the House of Commons immediately. And for the period of time that he is both a member of Parliament and working on the television, he should be repaying his Member of Parliament fee. He shouldn't be taking a fee from both. But clearly he's much better in a television studio than he ever was in the chamber of the House of Commons. Nadine Dorries, well, she was no good in the chamber of the House of Commons, and she is laughable on television. But, you know, sometimes you need a little bit of humour. If we don't have Frankie Howard, we might as well stick Nadine Dorries on the TV and giggle at her. But if I were Nadine Dorries, I would think twice about my professional image, and I would wonder really whether or not I want to present the world that image, whether I want to be seen as a clown and as an airhead who can't read the auto cue. This doesn't say anything about the glass ceiling at all. Esther McVey shouldn't be doing it. She already had a television career. If she thinks her ministerial and parliamentary career is over, then she should say so and go back into proper television. She shouldn't be playing around, and she should know better. But these, so I have no time for Esther McVey. She already knows what she can do. She does it well, but I really don't care. She rejected that life and she went into a political life, and now she thinks that's no longer safe. There's too many people hedging their bets in politics and still taking the money. They need to make a decision because they represent us. They still represent us until the next election, and that could still be over a year away. So I don't like the idea of people taking the money and not delivering the goods. I think that's a form of theft. And I think somebody who has got a second job that they're dedicated to, and they're paying no attention to the first job, I think they're in a, if they're not in a legally compromising position, they're certainly in a morally compromising position. I hope somebody like Rees-Mogg would recognise that as he goes to confession. There are other broadcasters on talkTV and GBNews who I think are interesting. As I say, I think one has to make a distinction between the charisma of the presenter and the sort of news that they're presenting and the sort of angles they take. In so many ways, I think there are the cutting edge of media is now in these smaller TV companies, like for example LBC. The broadcasts of LBC, very interesting. Andrew Marr, fascinating content, and certainly biased. And I think there's room for television channels which proclaim their bias. And simply because the program is biased doesn't mean we shouldn't be listening to it. As for those people who assume that I am left of centre, I probably am left of centre now, but that's simply because the Conservative Party has moved so far to the right, it's not something I can fully engage with. But I'm definitely not a socialist. I do remember when I first met Jeremy Corbyn's brother, and we had a lovely chat. In fact, we keep meeting. We obviously travel in the same circles these days. He asked me what colour my politics were, and at that point he hadn't told me who he was. He was being a bit coy, and I said, well, I think they're slightly bluer than yours, but I think when it comes to education, I'm to the left of Jeremy Corbyn. And he said, no one's to the left of my brother. And I thought, got you. I'd actually been drawing his caricature all that morning, so I knew exactly who he was. But I think there's room for a scope of political views, and I think it's very rare that somebody will fall absolutely into one political party or another. I certainly don't. As I say, when it comes to education policy, I still subscribe to the view that anybody going to university should have an opportunity for a grant rather than having to pay out of their own pocket. I don't think that's the right way forward. I certainly don't think it's right, as Jeremy Corbyn proposed, that a certain number of subjects should be earmarked for opportunity and others should not. In my view, it doesn't matter whether you're studying knitting or politics. You're entering the same world and you're learning how to identify ideas, how to manage a presentation in a logical, coherent and academic way. And as I say, the subject matter is almost irrelevant. It's the technique which you are learning.